Yo, so what is good, everybody on YouTube? We are back today with a brand new video, and I'm super excited about this one in all honesty. I've seen some other videos like it, so I figured let's give it a crack ourselves. We set the NBA back to 2014, and we're going to see just how it plays out from 2014 to the current day in the NBA. And if you guys like this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and just destroy that like button, because if you do that, it shows me that you guys like some different content, and we can throw in some stuff like this from time to time. As you can see, we're kind of going through all the rosters here, and you can just see what the NBA was looking like in 2014. Obviously, Giannis was just starting to get into the league and really wasn't where he is currently. Still has a lot of time to progress at this point. The Heat still have Wade and Chris Bosh. Al Jefferson is actually the best player on the Hornets. Definitely a lot of interesting moves that we will be seeing throughout this. DeMarcus Cousins is still that guy there for the Kings. And we even still have Kobe Bryant as the #1 overall on the Lakers. Obviously, RIP to that GOAT. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out and what happens if time was reversed. So, you see the Mavericks still have Dirk as well, man. Just so many absolute legends that we're going to be able to see play again in this 2K sim. The Nuggets still have Jusuf Nurkic as well as Jokic. If you didn't know that, they actually had both of those big men at one time, which was kind of crazy. PG still the leading scorer and all for the Pacers here, 93 overall. Definitely super interesting. So you kind of get a gist of it, so let's just hop into this. Obviously, you know what a lot of these rosters were already looking like. So let's get into it and see what happens in this sim. So in the year 2014 here, our guy Russ actually ends up getting an MVP season. Jusuf Nurkic gets himself Rookie of the Year. Jimmy Butler gets Most Improved Player of the Year. And Defensive Player of the Year goes to LeBron. No real surprise there looking at the all-rookie teams here. You see guys like Embiid, LaVine, Jabari Parker, Spencer Dinwiddie. Just pretty interesting to see all these guys back to their rookie forms. Look at the standings. The Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron end up as the #1 seed. The #2 seed is there by Paul George and the Pacers. #3 seed, a little bit to my surprise, is actually that Pistons team. And I want to see if there's any teams that stand out to me maybe that didn't make the playoffs that we would have expected to. Kind of interested to see what the Celtics team is looking like with IT. Obviously, they do miss the playoffs. Looking on the Western Conference side of things, you have the combo of Russ and KD getting the #1 seed. #2 seed, you got an early stage of Dame and CJ, who obviously have been going crazy even in the current NBA bubble as well. #3 is occupied by James Harden and the Rockets. You see the Warriors doing their thing, of course, as well. Teams that didn't make the playoffs here, you see the Pelicans with AD and Jimmer Fredette actually at point guard. And the Lakers with Kobe. And they actually have Jeremy Lin as their starting point guard as well. So want to check out kind of who the top leading scorers in the year were. #1, you got Dame, James Harden, LeBron, Steph, Paul George. Not real too surprised over there, if I'm being honest. But let's see just how the first round plays out. And at the end of the first round here, we had the Clippers go to a Game 7 actually there with the OKC Thunder. Second round matchup right there. That's going to be an interesting one. You got OKC over there versus the Warriors. Obviously, one of the things that happened in the real playoffs that caused eventually KD to head over to Golden State and team up with Steph. Kind of look at some of these box scores maybe that were kind of interesting. You got Kyrie dropping 31 and an L there to the Magic team that did upset them in the first round with Nikola Vucevic kind of leading the charge. So you got some just interesting ones here, man. Kind of simulating that round. You see that the Warriors do end up knocking out the Thunder yet again. Pretty realistic there in a 6-game series. Bulls versus the Magic here. The Magic actually get a second upset already. They end up knocking out D-Rose and the Bulls in 7, which is definitely a surprise. So we're going to have a Portland Trailblazers with Dame up against a Steph Curry-led team. And on the other side, we're going to have a Miami Heat team with D-Wade up against this Magic team that's just coming in as the dog with Nikola Vucevic, who end up going to 7 with that team, but do not get it done. 45 there from Dame on the other side on the Western Conference. Definitely enough to route out that Steph Curry-led Warriors team. So in the finals here, Trailblazers obviously up against D-Wade and Bosh, a very talented Miami Heat team to say the very least. So let's just see how this one goes and who ends up actually winning and getting finals MVP. It's looking good for the Trailblazers, and in 2014, Dame ends up getting himself a ring that early in with dropping a 37-piece on 13 of 21 shooting to drop off the Heat in 5. What a year. So looking into the NBA draft here, of course we do have the actual NBA draft rosters here. So number 1 overall, Karl-Anthony Towns actually ends up going to the Nets, who were obviously in a huge rebuild at the time. And just like in real life, the Knicks end up taking Kristaps, although that was a questionable one. For a lot of people in real life, a lot of people did not like that one. D'Angelo Russell goes to the Celtics. Devin Booker drops to 4 here, and the Lakers do take him. There's going to be some random creative guys in here just because 2K does that with some of the draft classes for who knows what reason. Montrezl Harrell goes to the Celtics with number 20, so Celtics having a really good draft here. And a little bit of a steal there for the Trailblazers, actually grabbing Miles Turner at pick 30. Looking at the second round here, if there's any guys really interesting, Josh Richardson to the Wizards in the second round. And is there anybody else that was maybe a big steal at the end here? There is not. So, of course, we're going to go into the next year here, which is 2015, and I'm going to point out some of the big free agent acquisitions that happened, so we kind of keep up with who is where. And as you can see, boom, right away, the 76ers actually got Klay Thompson in free agency. This is right after the process, pretty much. So they had a lot of cap space, and I guess they went out and actually got themselves a star. The Bulls here also making a pretty big splash as well, bringing in a young Nikola Jokic to play alongside D Rose. Looking at the Cavs here, we got them actually grabbing Kemba Walker as well. But they have LeBron, Kemba Walker, and K-Love. The Hawks end up signing both Kawhi Leonard and Tobias Harris. Looking at the Heat, they actually grabbed Kyrie Irving. That could make that team very interesting. Kyrie Irving, D-Wade, Luol Deng, and Chris Bosh with Hassan Whiteside. Looking at the Warriors, they also added Jimmy Butler. But with that, we're going to hop into it and see how it all goes. And in year 2015, LeBron goes and gets an MVP. Nikola Jokic actually technically ends up as Rookie of the Year, since I do think he was overseas the previous year. Sixth Man of the Year goes to Monte Ellis, and DPOY goes to Paul George. Looking at the All-NBA first team, pretty usual suspects in all honesty. And to look at these standings, the Grizzlies end up the number 1 seed here. Definitely to my surprise in the Western Conference, even above the Warriors, so they definitely did their thing. Lakers do end up making playoffs here with that addition of Devin Booker. They have Kobe coming off the bench as the 6th man. They also have Anthony Davis at that center position now, of course, as I might have highlighted if I did miss it. He did sign here after his contract with the Pelicans. Looking at any of the other kind of interesting teams here, surprised to see this Jazz team slip in all honesty. Let's see what else we got. Looking at the Eastern Conference here, we got the Chicago Bulls, the number 1 seed, who have Nikola Jokic, Joakim Noah, and D Rose, which is obviously a fantastic team. Number 2 seed for the Toronto Raptors there. Number 3 seed immediately from a team that didn't even make playoffs last year with the addition of Klay. And they even have Isaiah Cannon still starting at point guard. That Cavs team that is kind of amazing is the number 4 seed. The Knicks do end up missing playoffs barely with the addition of Kristaps and Melo, of course. The Nets with Karl-Anthony Towns also missed playoffs. Looking at the top 10 scorers in the season, a lot of usual suspects. Kind of surprised to see Klay taking on number 4 spot. That's really high. I guess he definitely did go to Philly and change a lot of things. And number 5, Mike Conley definitely doing his thing as well, leading that Grizzlies team to that number 1 seed. So after the first round here, we have some interesting matchups that we're going to have on our hands here. You see the Grizzlies do end up taking their series pretty easily. Dame and CJ versus the Thunder do end up taking that 4-2 as well. Moving on to the second round, bumping out the Thunder. Lakers versus the Rockets matchup. The Lakers pretty much took out James Harden pretty easily there, 4-1 in 5. The Jazz do end up upsetting the Golden State Warriors there, who were the number 2 seed. Jazz were the 7 seed. 7-game series there for the Toronto Raptors versus the Heat, and the Heat get knocked out. And then over here you got Giannis only putting up 12 points there in that loss to the Bulls. And that's how you can kind of see Giannis is definitely not in full Giannis mode just yet. So second round here, we had the matchup up against the Grizzlies and Trailblazers. Trailblazers do end up getting routed in 5. Here the Lakers do end up knocking out the Jazz pretty easily in 6. 7-game series there for the Bulls versus the Cavs. And right here, the Toronto Raptors do end up beating the Wizards in a very low-scoring game. 7-game series here with D. Rose, Pau Gasol, Nikola Jokic putting up a triple-dub in the game. Up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously super talented, a triple-double for LeBron, and fantastic games for Kemba and K-Love, but the Bulls do end up taking it. 4-0 sweep there. Raptors actually end up killing the Bulls, which is a little surprise to me. I didn't think that would happen. And on the other side there in the Western Conference, we have a 7-game series there between the Lakers and the Grizzlies. Giving us our finals matchup here, the Raptors, kind of led by Kyle Lowry and Paul Millsap, up against the Lakers, of course. They do have Julius Randle, Kobe, and D. Book. So let's see just how this one plays out and who ends up winning it all here in the year 2015. It's looking pretty good for the Raptors here as they find themselves up 3-1 in the series. We're going to hop into Simcast and see just how this one plays out. It was a little back and forth early on, but the Raptors definitely ended up pulling away. Winning by 13 with Kyle Lowry actually getting a Finals MVP there, dropping 36 in that dub, getting it done. Looking at some of these player retirements, you see Jason Terry, Richard Jefferson, Hedo Turkoglu, and Elton Brand, old school Chevy, all retiring. Hopping into the draft here, number 1 pick is owned by the Knicks, who end up taking Ben Simmons. Can you imagine Ben Simmons with his career on the Knicks? That would have been definitely an interesting reality there. Buddy Hield goes number 2. And number 3, the Pelicans actually end up drafting Brandon Ingram, which is kind of ironic because obviously he ends up there in real life eventually. And let's take a look at some of the other notable picks from this draft. Denzel Valentine goes number 4. Malcolm Brogdon falls down. Jamal Murray goes number 11 there to the T-Wolves. That's pretty much a steal with how he's playing in real life at this point in his career. Marquise Chris, let's see. Anybody in the second round that was like a little steal? Let's see. Karis LeVert going to the Bulls in the second round. Anything big here? Pascal Siakam, there it is. Pascal Siakam going to the Kings with the 18th pick in the second round. Moving us on to 2016, of course, I will show some of the more interesting signings here. Bradley Beal ends up actually signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers post LeBron. The Celtics here end up snagging Paul George to make an absolute bomb squad of a team. Just look at that squad there, man. That is deadly. The Hornets here, we have them grabbing DeMar DeRozan. For one of the first times, it seems like the Hornets get a big-name free agent. They also got Joakim Noah. The Mavericks here making a huge splash and going out and getting LeBron to play alongside an aging Dirk. Would have been an interesting combo for sure. Pistons here, we have the Pistons grabbing James Harden. And that's really the big signings of the year, so we're just going to hop into the end of the season here. Anthony Davis ends up getting an MVP here with the Lakers. Monte Ellis gets Sixth Man of the Year. Rookie of the Year goes to one of those stupid creative guys that I don't even know why they're in the draft classes, but they are, because 2K's lazy. Most Improved Player of the Year goes to Miles Turner as well. Taking a look at the standings now. Number 1 seed, Philadelphia 76ers getting it done. The number 2 seed is actually the Milwaukee Bucks. They do have Giannis starting now at that small forward position alongside Chris Middleton and Jabari Parker. Hassan Whiteside is their big man. That's an interesting team to say the very least. 3rd seed here, James Harden does lead the Pistons to the promised land. Any big interesting ones here? The Knicks do end up making playoffs the first year that they added Ben Simmons as the number 8 seed. So definitely a little improvement there to say the very least. Anybody looking outside of the playoffs that I think maybe should have made it? Definitely the Celtics team, because that team's too talented to not make the playoffs in all honesty. Cleveland Cavaliers post Braun cannot get it done despite having a pretty solid team there in all honesty. Looking at the Western Conference here, of course, Lakers topping it off. Number 3 seed is actually this Kings team. Kind of surprised to see them wrangling in 52 wins. 4th seed here as well. A little bit surprised to see T-Wolves doing it as well. Warriors struggling here despite adding Jimmy Butler to that 2-guard position to kind of try and replace Clay. Mavericks with LeBron end up missing playoffs pretty bad with only 24 wins. Looking at the top 10 scorers in the season, Bron, DeMar DeRozan doing his thing in Charlotte. Bradley Beal doing his thing in Cleveland without LeBron there. And no too big of surprises there. But let's see how the first round actually ends up playing out. And the Lakers actually get upset by the Jazz there in the first round. Pretty big surprise to me, in all honesty. The Grizzlies do their thing, of course. They've been absolutely great in this sim. Warriors get knocked out early, 4-0 swept by the Kings. 7-game series there for the Trailblazers and Thunder, but this time the Thunder do actually come out on top. I feel like they've had some pretty bad playoff luck early. Big game there from Giannis, but they still do get routed in 7 by the Bulls. Definitely some interesting kind of like storylines going on. Philadelphia 76ers go to a 7-game series there with the 8th seeded Knicks, of course, with Ben Simmons, but they do come out on top, thankfully, not getting knocked out by the 8th seed. In the second round here, Philadelphia goes to another 7-game series over there against the Magic, which is kind of crazy. Thunder end up pretty easily knocking out this Kings team, so 4-1. You see Clay drop 27, Embiid putting up 21 and 15 in that W, and the Bulls do end up routing the Pistons with James Harden. So this would be a fun matchup to watch in real life here. You got the Sixers team up against D Rose, Jokic, and Mirotic, and then on the other side, obviously Russ and KD up against a pretty. They have Tim Duncan as well, an older Tim Duncan. Up against his Grizzlies team with primetime Mike Conley. 4-1 there. The Thunder do end up taking it up against the Sixers, who of course also won 4-1. So let's see how this one ends up playing out. You got the Philadelphia 76ers here up against the OKC Thunder. Who's going to come out on top? This is definitely an interesting one. Back and forth series early on, and we're going to hop into Simcast to see how this one goes. Thunder need this game or they will indeed get eliminated, and it is going to Game 7, baby. Who's going to show up? Will Russ and KD show up? And it's not looking that way. As we hop into Simcast, 131 to 117, even with that brick shot. Obviously, there's no chance of coming back with this amount of time left. So the Philadelphia 76ers are going to get a chip very early on in this sim. Mostly thanks to Klay Thompson adding to the squad and Joel Embiid stepping into the role a lot better than maybe he did in real life. By the way, I'm a Sixers fan, so I love Joel, but you know, sometimes he handles things a little, probably not the best. So let's look at the box score here. Joe putting up 30 and 11 there. Jordan Clarkson actually the second highest scorer, keeping suppressing the scoring of KD and Russ. Embiid getting himself a Finals MVP early on. KG, Kobe, Tim Duncan, and Dirk all retiring in the same season. Obviously, some of the absolute biggest GOATs in NBA history right there. And here we're going to hop into the draft. Let's check out this draft lottery real quick for the year 2017. That is going to be this draft class. The Thunder actually end up with the number 1 overall pick. Obviously, the Thunder are already super talented, having Russ and KD. And to my surprise, they don't take Tatum. They take Kyle Kuzma, number 1 overall. Not sure that one will work out for them. Number 2, the Jason Tatum ends up going to the Nuggets here. And number 3, it looks like the Hornets might have finally got their guy in Donovan Mitchell there. Number 4 overall, Lauri Markkanen going to the Suns. Fultz drops to 6 there. Lonzo ends up going to the Rockets with the pick 8. De'Aaron Fox drops all the way to pick 12 going to the Spurs. That's kind of crazy. Jonathan Isaac goes number 18. See if there's anything else I really need to point out here as far as maybe some sleepers in this draft class. Jared Allen going in the second round to the Suns. He did get drafted pretty late in real life. Bam Adebayo, a second round pick to the Cleveland Cavaliers there with the 8th pick. That's a huge deal. Of course, I'm going to show all the big free agency splashes, and the Sixers go out and make another one, adding Giannis Antetokounmpo alongside Clay and Joel. That is an insane team. Bulls make a splash here, getting primetime Blake Griffin alongside Nikola Jokic there. So that will be an interesting one to watch out for. Bogey actually goes to the Clippers here with Chris Paul. The Jazz end up grabbing Tobias Harris on a pretty good contract. Bam Adebayo actually also ends up signing with the Knicks here because I guess overall that the Cavs ended up not signing their second round pick. So keep that in mind. He is on the Knicks there with a pretty interesting young Knicks team. The Lakers end up snagging themselves Gordon Hayward to make that team even better scoring-wise. Denver Nuggets here. Let's see their addition. That's pretty solid. They added Zach LaVine. Just look at that team, man. That is some young absolute studs. Pacers here do have D Rose. Now, Rudy Gobert signs a contract here with the Pelicans as their starting center. And that's the biggest free agency splashes of the year, so of course we're going to move on. Giannis gets his first MVP season here with the Philadelphia 76ers. A fantastic season. Bojan Bogdanovic here, a rookie of the year, actually. That's pretty interesting. I like that. Monte Ellis gets another Sixth Man of the Year. He is just racking those up, man. And Defensive Player of the Year goes to Anthony Davis. And Most Improved Player of the Year goes to Malcolm Brogdon. Seems pretty realistic to me. And to take a look at the standings here, LA Lakers getting the #1 seed despite missing the playoffs a couple years ago. OKC Thunder solidifying that #3 spot in the West. The Kings actually coming in with #2 here. Definitely a little crazy to me. Mavs do end up making the playoffs this year with LeBron. Thankfully, last year they missed them. #8 seed Warriors, man. The Warriors have been disappointing in this sim. I guess since Clay left, they kind of broke up the squad, but definitely would have expected Steph to step up a little bit more. Eastern Conference, obviously that 76ers team, insane. #2 seed is the Celtics there. Great team. Wizards solidifying that #3 spot for, obviously, Wade and Bosh. Anybody looking out from the outside in that maybe is a little bit interesting. This Knicks team, really, I thought they would make the playoffs with this roster. I think it's a pretty decent one, in all honesty. Definitely a little surprising to me. Cavaliers having a really rough time post-Bron here, despite having Bradley Beal, Kemba, and K. Love. Let's check out these top 10 scorers. Let's see if there's anybody interesting. Zach LaVine, #2 overall, man. Bogey, #5. Bradley Beal at 7. CJ at #8, man. There's some guys stepping up early. Looking at the playoffs here, the Lakers absolutely flood the freaking the Warriors there by about 50 points in that Game 5, which is crazy. Andrew Wiggins stepping up big time for the T-Wolves, but they still do get bounced. OKC Thunder taking the Pelicans in 7 there. Let's see any big other interesting ones. Sixers 4-0 their team. The Celtics come out on top against the Bulls here in 5. If only 5, I'd expect that have went to at least 6 or 7. Heat versus the Raptors there. The Heat come out on top after 7. So we're moving on to the second round here. Some interesting matchups. Philadelphia 76ers team up against Kyrie, D-Wade, and Bosh. We have this Lakers team without Bron, of course, up against this Mavericks team that does have LeBron. We have the OKC Thunder here up against the Trailblazers. So definitely some interesting matchups. And to see how they all play out, Lakers versus the Mavericks actually go to a Game 7 over there. CJ having his game right there, doing some damage. Looking at this game right here, 31 piece from D-Book, 34 from LeBron, but was not enough to get it done for the Mavericks. Sixers take the Heat pretty easily in 5, to my surprise. And the Celtics end up taking it pretty easy over the over the Wizards, despite a 43-game performance there from John Wall. Sixers end up taking a 4-0 sweep over the Celtics, which is kind of crazy. LMA dropping 37 to help a sweep for the Trailblazers. Sixers versus the Trailblazers in the finals here in the year 2017, and the Sixers end up taking it with pretty much a lot of ease there, with Embiid getting himself another Finals MVP award, now at a 91 overall. CJ dropping 40 there, but not enough to get it done. Hopping into the draft here, I believe this is the 2018 NBA draft. DeAndre Ayton gets the #1 overall selection from the Utah Jazz there. #2 overall, we got the Pacers taking Luka Doncic. What a steal getting him at #2, man, with us knowing how good he's actually going to be. #3 overall here, San Antonio Spurs are going to grab, there's a trade here, TJ Warren and Raul Neto for the first pick and Tony Parker. So Wizards move up to Gabriel Crawford, man. I hate that there's these created guys in these sims right now. Let's see where some of the other interesting guys from the draft class went. Mo Bamba 7. We got Trae Young falling all the way down to pick 9 for the Denver Nuggets, man. That's pretty electric. Definitely could help out that Nuggets team a whole lot. SGA falling to 11 to the Hornets. Michael Porter Jr. falls to 15 to the Bucks. See if there's any other big names here that we need to kind of point out. Mitchell Robinson going in the second round to the Hornets. Obviously, in real life, he was a sleeper as well. Moving us into what would be the 2018 season here. Of course, let me point out if there's any big free agent signings real quick before we hop into the actual sim. Lakers do end up grabbing Serge Ibaka, which at this time would be huge for this team. Just look at that team, man. If it was 2018, that team is deadly. Spurs end up signing Jokic on a big deal, stealing him from the Bulls. And they actually have De'Aaron Fox as well with Victor Oladipo and Jokic. Both of the Morris brothers actually together in Phoenix. The T-Wolves signed Andrew Wiggins to a 5-year, $204 million deal. So kind of interested to see what he's looking like and what that team is looking like. DeAndre Jordan and Wiggins is up to an 87 overall. But, they have Jamal Murray as well. Not bad at all. So let's see how this season plays out. Nikola Jokic with a change of scenery gets an MVP season here with the Spurs going absolutely crazy. Marc Gasol, 6th Man of the Year there with the Grizzlies. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Anthony Davis. Looking at these standings, obviously that Spurs team solidifying that first spot. Absolutely a bucket-getting squad. Number 2, you have Dame and CJ. Anything else real interesting? Thunder falling down to the 6th overall seed. Kind of surprising to me. Lakers at the 7th too, man. Some underachievers this year. Minnesota slipping in there at 8. Wow. Number 9 seed Mavericks with LeBron still missing playoffs. Warriors missing playoffs as well, man. Definitely some surprises here in this sim. Eastern Conference. The Nets end up getting the number 1 seed with Fultz, Andre Robertson, Thad Young, Kat, and Bogdanovic, man. The Sixers are the 3rd seed now that Clay has left. They still have Giannis and Embiid, though. Any other real big surprise? I really did expect this team to make the playoffs more than they are, this Knicks team. But they are just not getting it done. Looking at the top scorers, you got Zach LaVine leading the league in scoring, number 1 right there. Bogey, number 3. Curry, 2. Any big ones? No real big surprises beyond that, in my opinion. So we're going to hop into the second round and see just how everything ends up playing out. Spurs go to a 7-game series here up against the T-Wolves, where Andrew Wiggins leads the team in scoring but just cannot get it done for them. 4-0 sweep there against the OKC Thunder. Pelicans absolutely destroy them. Celtics end up taking it over the Pistons in a 7-game series. The Sixers get routed in the first round by this Cleveland Cavaliers team that added Mike Conley. So an absolute dog was added to the team, kind of turned their entire franchise around. Last couple of years since LeBron left, they have been missing the playoffs. So second round here, definitely some interesting matchups. Let's see how they play out. So we got the Spurs defeating the Jazz. We have the Lakers routing the Pelicans. And the Pelicans actually have KD now. I didn't even notice that. My bad, boys. That was one of the ones I probably missed of the big free splashes. But that is apparently the case. But he still got routed anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Wizards actually, with Clay now taking the Celtics out in 7. So we have the Spurs here. Obviously a very young, good squad up against this Lakers team that is actually extremely good as well. Wizards here up against the 91 overall Clay here. So the Wizards here up against the Heat in the Eastern Conference. If I had to take a guess, I think one of those teams coming out of the West is going to win it all. Spurs going 4-0 sweep as well as the Heat actually getting a 4-0 sweep. So let's see. This should be a big series then. Both teams coming in hot. I think the Western Conference has the edge. They're a little bit tougher. Spurs up 2-1. 3-1. Let's hop into Simcast and see just how this one plays out. Will the Spurs end it here in 5? And it's looking good as the Spurs have a pretty big lead over them and they end up beating them by 11. Nikola Jokic getting not only regular season MVP but a finals MVP here early in the sim. 27 and 18 for him there. And Chris Bosh putting up 38, still not getting it done. Hopping into the draft, trade right off the rip here. Of course, in the 2019 draft, Kevon Jackson. I really don't like there's random people in these, dude. Rodney Matthews, number 2. Number 3 ends up being Zion, apparently, so it is what it is. RJ Barrett falls down to pick 9. Ja Morant goes pick 4. Tyler Hero falls down to 12 with the Bulls. Is there any big other interesting ones? Not really, so we are now in the 2019-2020 NBA season. let's check. There wasn't any real big free agent signings, so we're just going to kind of move past that. MVP, a back-to-back MVP year for Nikola Jokic, going crazy. Sixth Man of the Year goes to Isaiah Thomas, and Dennis Smith Jr. getting the Most Improved Player of the Year. Usual suspects on the All-NBA first team. And let's check out these standings in 2019-2020. Celtics coming in as the number 1 seed, D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, and Vucevic. What a bomb squad that is. In the Western Conference, wow, Trae Young goes and absolutely demolishes things, helping that Nuggets team get the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Mavs with LeBron do slip in there as the 8th seed, so that's a battle in the first round right there. Warriors do miss playoffs yet again with Steph and Jimmy. Clippers team ends up missing playoffs. Of course, this Knicks team cannot put it together, man. I thought they would, having had Kristaps and Ben together for a couple years, but it just did not happen. Bulls team also cannot put it together. Cavs just missed the playoffs after a pretty impressive year last year, in all honesty. Looking at the top 10 scorers, Andrew Wiggins, the number 2 overall scorer in the entire league, followed by DeRozan and Porzingis with a change of scenery, and the Rockets actually being the 4th highest scorer in the league. Jokic at 6, Braun at 7, Levine, Towns, and Lillard. Some of the guys you obviously would have expected there. So in the first round here, the Mavs do end up upsetting that Nuggets team. Like I said, that was going to be a battle in the first round. They end up taking them in 5. OKC gets knocked out by the Grizzlies in the first round. Spurs end up taking it over the Kings pretty easily. We have a 4-2 series over here. Pacers end up taking out the Hornets. Sixers 4-0 sweep the Heat in their kind of probably last couple years in the league of D. Wade and Bosh together. Magic end up taking out the Pistons, led by James Harden, 4-2. And the Boston Celtics end up taking the 8th seed out pretty easily, 4-2 over there as well. So let's hop into the second round. Some definitely interesting matchups here, to say the very least. So Sixers end up taking their series barely. A dogfight of a series here. Luka dropping a ton of points there in his second season in the league. Just trying to get it done. Oh, wait, they do. Oh, my goodness. My bad, boys. Luka actually ends up upsetting the Sixers there with a huge scoring performance, 4-2 in 6 games. Celtics end up getting upset by the Magic over there. LeBron and the Mavs get upset by the Grizzlies. Well, not really upset, but they get bounced by them. So in the Western Conference Finals, you got the Los Angeles Lakers up against this Grizzlies squad that's super gritty. And then in the Eastern Conference, you got D-Rose and Luka up against the Magic that have Jonathan Isaac and Wendell Carter Jr. going to a 7-game series. And Luka does not clutch up, apparently, despite dropping 31, almost having a triple-double. Still could not get it done, man. Lakers here in the finals up against the Magic in the year 2019, which would be our current NBA season. 2-2, all tied up in this series. We're going to use Simcast, of course. We're up 3-2, the Lakers are. So let's hop into Simcast and see just how this one ends up playing out. We're going to hop into it. Pretty good lead there. Lakers starting to come back a little bit. We're going to slow it down so we can kind of see just how everything goes. So 3-point lead here. Magic have the ball. 30 seconds left. Jonathan Isaac puts up a little floater. Does not go. Lakers kind of on, I guess you could say, a fast break here, but they're definitely getting slowed down. Dish it down low to AD, making it a 1-point game with 22 seconds left. If the Lakers win this, they do win the series. Wendell Carter bricking his first one at the free throw and draining the second here, making it a 2-point game with 21 seconds left. Jeremy Lin handling the ball and is getting a devastating turnover there, man. Definitely can't be doing that, Linsanity. Wendell Carter bricks his second this time, so it is still a manageable game. 3-point game with 10 seconds left. Lakers get sent to the line. Jeremy Lin knocks them both down, making it a 1-point game with 10.8 left on the clock. Of course, they're going to foul right away in an attempt to possibly win. 3-point game here, 136, 139. 9 seconds left on the clock. Who is going to take this shot? Jeremy Lin bringing it up, passing it over to... Oh, right back, and Jeremy Lin throws it up, and it is a brick as the Orlando Magic end up taking it, pushing it to a 7-game in the series here. In Simcast, you see back and forth, and I meant to hop in last second, but I just did not hit X in time. Anthony Davis ends up getting the Lakers a chip here. A pretty low-scoring game. Anthony Davis putting up 17 and 17 there, 31 from Harris. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know down in the comment section below. If you made it this far, as always, comment GOAT, G-O-A-T, in the comment section so I know you're a true Bean Squad supporter. Thank you.